Hey guys, my name is Heron,
And I'm Gygus.
and welcome to Campfire Embers Episode 2. We are calling this episode Our Upbringing with Games because we figured we'd talk a little bit about kind of how we grew up with different things. Because I grew up with I shouldn't say largely, mainly just Nintendo, and you kind of got a whole mesh of stuff growing up.
I've been known to dabble.
You've been known to dabble. I'm sitting in front of a gigantic PC system here, just so you guys all know. But that's, yeah. I mean, we figured we'd go with starting off with this. So, our upbringing with games. Do you want to go in a little bit of detail for what your first video game was?
Ooh, that's a difficult one.
Right.
I've been gaming for as long as I can remember, so it's very hard to recall the exact first game I've ever played. Yeah, so I think my first ever game would probably have to be on the original NES.
Yeah. What was it?
I I think it was either Mario, like the original Mario, or Duck Hunt. Because I even still have it somewhere. I have the Mario Bros and Duck Hunt bundle thing.
I was just gonna talk about that because my aunt actually has the exact same thing. That's how
Yeah,
I
I
played.
even have the little blaster thing too.
The end zap. Yeah,
Unfortunately, you can't really use it anymore with modern day TVs because they don't have that staticky kind of screen.
Yeah, they also don't have unless you buy. Well, I guess it's more of a thing with the Wii, but because I was talking about the sensor bar.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but that wasn't a thing until the Wii came out. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead 10 years.
Well, I mean, you don't even need to have a freaking sensor bar. All you needed was a piece of tin foil.
That's exactly insane. It was something else, man, and it's yeah. I was the whole reason I was going into that was because, funnily enough, my very first video game I ever played was the original Mario, but it was not on. I'm trying to remember if it was. It might have been on an NES, but I remember that was a portion of it. I just don't remember exactly which one it was, but I remember that very vividly being my very first Mario game and my very first video game.
Yeah, and then I think it would have to be not long after was the N64.
The N64 was one of my childhood consoles.
Yeah.
Because I had because my I think it was maybe a year into my parents' marriage. My dad actually gave my mom a GameCube for their 1 year anniversary, or it was either their second anniversary. Either way, it was one of their anniversaries, and that was mainly our original console. Because how my family grew up was we had in our living room, because we're all very, very big gamers, at least with Nintendo stuff. Me more so than everyone else, just because
Yeah.
I love everything that Nintendo puts out. But I lost my train of thought. How we had it going we did this for years. We had the main console set up with a TV in the living room and couches around it. And as soon as we got the Wii, we supplemented that the GameCube and the Wii in those in the same console. But when my sister got a TV in her room, when we upgraded to the to my TV that I have in my room right now, when we upgraded that to our main TV, that was when we had and we got the Wii U. We put the Wii in my sister's room, and I got the N64, and we sold the GameCube. So for a large portion of my childhood, it was GameCube, N64, and Wii, until we got the Wii U, and then a lot of things happened there.
Yeah,
So.
I'm now that I'm thinking back on it, I kind of grew up with the Nintendo and then kind of just started branching out towards different things because it was the NES, then it was the N64, and then at one point I had a Game Boy. I still have it.
I have my game. Well, I don't have an original Game Boy. I have I got a Game Boy Advanced SP.
Oh, I just have a color. I'm not that fancy.
You don't even have an advance. You just have a color.
I just have a color.
That's awesome. I never had one of those. So, I will say though that my my great grandma actually had. I don't know where it is now, but she has an original Game Boy,
Ah,
which I
nice.
thought was really really cool. And I remember playing Tetris on that. Not even 2 years ago. So
Yeah, and then was later on I got the Wii.
hmm Yep, I remember the Wii very very vividly because we got the bundle with Mario Galaxy when that game came out.
Yeah.
So we got that game, and oh man, I remember Mario Galaxy is one of my favorite games of all time. It is such a masterpiece of a game.
Yeah, so funny thing about the Wii and a little story about me, and I don't even think I told you about this.
Probably not.
Um this was probably like, I don't know, around about like 14ish years ago. I was like first, second grade. I like, so it's probably been longer than that.
Yeah.
But I used to have a friend who I went to school with. We lived on the same street and everything, and I would constantly go over to his house. So what happened? His dad managed to break, break the Wii
hmm
into like being able to play every single Wii game ever made.
Oh, so he hacked it.
Yeah, like game break essentially. Like,
That's awesome.
so it was like, oh, I want to play Borderlands. I can play Borderlands. I want to play Mario Galaxy 1 or 2. I can play it.
That's
I
awesome.
want to play New Super Mario Bros. Wii. I can play it.
That's interesting because that method of stuff is it wasn't that well known back then. Honestly, like right now, you could go on like Amazon or you can go on various different shopping companies and you could get pre-hacked systems that have all that stuff built into it.
Yeah.
Like I'm pretty sure there are even I'm pretty sure there's even like Game Boy cartridges, little cards that actually have all of the games built into them on like a memory file. You put that in and you can access them all.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that your friend's dad had I guess had an option to do that before that was like mainstream.
Yeah, he was definitely a bit of a character cuz he he ended up downloading the entire series of Thundercats and Fraggle Rock on DVD for us.
That's awesome.
I don't know how he did it, but I mean I still own it. I still own every single episode of Thundercats and Fraggle Rock.
That's amazing. So I never grew up with Thundercats or anything like that, but I have seen episodes of it. I love that this stemmed from talking about games to talking about old cartoons. I guess Fraggle Rock isn't really a cartoon, but 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 no, it was I like that. That's really really cool. I didn't know that. I guess we can go back into what my whole setup was because this how we traded systems. Like between me and my sister as we upgraded with Nintendo consoles, that continued until we got the Switch. So I ended up getting the Wii U that we had, that I still have, and that's why I have that set up in my room.
Yeah. I mean I still have my Wii U. I probably only played like one or two games from
From that era of Nintendo games.
Hey, welcome to the podcast. Nice to see you here.
What's up? This is what's up? I'm happy that you have our entire attention.
Yeah.
But if you have anything that you want us to, I guess, explore further, please let us know. If you got any questions, we'd be happy to talk with that. What was I going to say? What was I saying? Oh yeah, I was talking about the Wii U. So, do you remember what games you played on the Wii U?
The only game that I remember besides like buying one of those because I remember buying like the older like Super Mario Bros. 3 and like those kind of games before like the Switch stuff was like a big thing with their ports.
Yeah.
I was a very big Skylanders fan. And
Let's go.
Superchargers just came out for the Wii U.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I bought that game. I bought the special amiibo like Donkey Kong one, and then I forget, but I had like another one too.
So
Yeah.
so remind me, was Swap Force was the fourth one, right?
Swap Force was the third one, I
So it
believe.
was the third one. Okay, so you're talking about the one after
Yeah,
Swap
fourth
Force.
one was Trap Team.
Right. Okay. That's
I
right.
even had the very hard to find Chaos Trap.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So my only experience with yes, rule over the domain.
So our entire topic for today is pretty much gaming and like how we've like got here since we are starting up our own streaming channel and YouTube channel, and we're just kind of talking about like what our interests are.
Exactly. The whole reason we titled this stream "Our Upbringing with Games" is because we wanted to delve in to. Oh, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. This is a $20 mic from Walmart, so that's great to hear.
Yeah, I mean, like, all I have to go on is I guess the recorded versions of the sound. So I have no idea how it sounds initially. So I'm really happy that it's being picked up so well. I keep losing my train of thought. Sorry, my brain is going in 50 different directions. It's
all good.
What was I talking about? Remind me, what was I talking about? Oh, Skylanders.
Yeah.
My only experience with Skylanders was Giants.
Yes,
Because-
that was a great game.
It was, and I remember this because one, I think it was in I was out of town visiting somewhere with my family, and I had seen like these little figures that I thought were like really really cool. I had no idea what Skylanders was at the time, so I ended up buying Eruptor. I think his name was Camo, and Warnado. So like 3 of the original Skylanders, I had for for that, and I remember using those on the original Skylanders Spyro Adventure on you're okay.
Yeah, it's all good. Like the reason why we're streaming on Twitch is for
it's
people
for chat input. So
yeah, like if you want us to talk about anything or our inputs on anything, like please let us know.
yeah, we eventually want like it's more along our topic, so to speak, or the title of the video is more so a guideline for what so we have an idea of a conversation to start and get the ball rolling with it. And eventually what we want is we want viewer input as we do this, so that way it's a lot more of a back and forth type thing.
Yeah, it's
and
a
we're
very
not just
interacting
talking,
thing.
So
Anyway, back to
right, sorry, I gotta finish the story. What was I saying?
I can get into my version.
Got it. I can do this. I promise. So one of my old neighbors at the time I grew up in a very condensed subdivision with a giant park right in the middle of it, and my best friend at the time lived directly across the park. But we had another friend that was about 2 years older that lived to, I guess, his right, my left from where it was. So I got to learn what Skylanders was by playing the end of Spyro's Adventure with him. So I have still to this day, I have absolutely, we will eventually, but right now we're just trying to get the ball rolling with getting comfortable with everything that we're doing. We will have a lot more of a social media presence. That is something I am working on.
Yeah, we do have a Discord though.
We do. Please join it. You can find the link on our Twitch page and
YouTube page.
and on YouTube. So I do believe I sent you that link. So
it's in the Twitch, and we will be posting stream announcements on there as well.
exactly. So and on the Instagram stories and on Facebook, we're gonna be trying to get as much media output as possible, so that way people know who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Going back to this, so that's how I learned what Skylanders were. I literally played the end of Spyro's Adventure with having no knowledge of who Chaos was or anything like that, from just these 3 little figures that I thought were really cool over at GameStop. I didn't even pay attention to branding or anything like that.
So how I got into Skylanders was actually whenever
Awesome, happy to hear it.
yeah, thank you. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought right
It's
there.
so distracting.
No, it's all good because like I really like to hear like what what everyone has to say in chat. So
Exactly. So please, and honestly, this is the most input we've had on chat.
yeah,
so far,
like
so.
you were the first like true like chat person we've had. So that's thank you.
Exactly. I don't want to destroy your confidence a little bit, but I will say this.
Ah.
Oh yeah. So she's actually she's talking about because if you didn't know, the only person we have in the on the stream right now is my sister, and she's saying that she still has the Bouncer figure. I got that figure along with Tree Rex, and two more. I can't remember what the purple dragon was, and there was another. It was the undead warrior that like rode the bone ostrich thing.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so I got that in a bundle with Tree Rex and the Portal of Power and Skylanders Giants when that initially came out.
Yeah. So my whole introduction into Skylanders was actually when I first got my Xbox 360.
Awesome.
I had my dad got it from some guy from a yard sale, and it came with Skylanders, and so I got the original Spyro's Adventure, and the only reason why I think they bought it for me was because they grew up with the original like Spyro like.
Oh, the Spyro games.
Yeah, the Spyro games. Nice. So that's where I think that they got me into it. And little did they know they would regret that decision because countless amount of money put into figures. I think my most played character was probably Trigger Happy.
I'd never had Trigger Happy, but I did have Pop Fizz.
I had Pop Fizz as well.
Pop Fizz was my go-to character for a lot
I had
of reasons.
The Spyro's Adventure Giants and then the Trap Team one, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, so I remember getting through that entire game in one day.
That's awesome.
And then I got to the final boss, which I still feel is the hardest boss in the entire like Skylanders series, is the freaking like multi-elemental Hydra beast.
I see. This is exactly what I'm saying. I have no knowledge of what you're talking about because the only game I played is the end of Spyro's Adventure and then all of Giants.
Yeah.
So,
so I remember spending hours trying to beat this boss and could not. I remember like at like 9 or 10 o'clock at night begging my grandpa to go to like the store. I think this was when Toys R Us was still a thing.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is like solely in Canada now, isn't it?
I think they're making a comeback into Texas. I think they're making another they're reopening one down there.
I gotcha. This is us just spitballing. We have no knowledge, and we also do not speak for the brand or company of
No,
Toys
we
R
do
Us.
not know. But yeah, I remember going all the way down there, and I got what was her name? It was like the undead dragon.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Are you talking about the? Are you talking about the giant, or are you talking about the?
No, this was for Spyro's Adventure.
Oh, okay. So this is the undead dragon. I don't remember an undead dragon.
Yeah, she was able to do like a Hex. That's her name. It was Hex.
Hex. Interesting. I want to look up a photo of this because
yeah, it was a bunch of like necro spell things that she could do. It was really cool, and getting that final character, I was able to beat Spyro's Adventure.
Hex. Okay, I remember her as a character, but I never played with her.
Oh no, that's a different person. I did have that one though.
Oh. Okay, so I guess Hex is not.
I did have Hex. I guess I was thinking of a different one. It's a purple dragon that's undead type.
That's the one I was talking about. Cinder.
Cinder, yes.
I had Cinder. Cinder came in the bundle with Tree Rex and everything. So
okay.
Yeah, so I guess we did have another similar character.
Yeah. And then I remember back when I still had a DS. I had a next door neighbor, and I remember doing some like shady stuff with my DS games. Like we were like passing things like beyond the fence.
Shady things.
Any of my DS games that I had, I would give it to him for like $10 each.
That's amazing.
And I literally, that was how I bought Giants.
That's awesome. So let's see. I had the only the only experience I really have with, well, I guess I have a couple of experiences with game trading, not just with DS, but because I only had a 3DS. So my experience with game trading started with the Game Boy Advance, my Game Boy Advance SP. It first started with me trading another game for my cousin's copy of A Link to the Past that came with a bundle of the first Four Swords game. So that was all in a cartridge right there. That I still have that cartridge. I don't remember what game I traded for it, but I do still have that specific cartridge. And the funny thing is, my cousin at the time actually wrote his name on the cartridge. So it just says his name in, like, basically blocking out almost the entirety of the tag that says Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past on it, which I think is hilarious. Trying to get the Game Boy Sync to work with Druba. Yes. Okay. So my cousin, the same cousins, actually had the link cables for the Game Boy, because if you remember, Four Swords was only able to play with another Game Boy. They had to have a copy of the game as well, and you had to have a link cable to get that to work.
Wow.
So it was I don't know if you ever experienced that whole thing. Exactly. So I guess my sister is just incorporating in chat, but she's talking about my cousins and everything with that too. So that's a whole nother ordeal that we only got to work, I think, twice. So the beginning area and like maybe a level after that is my entire experience of Four Swords because of how hard it was to make sure everything was going, and we had to make sure we had enough consoles to play it properly.
Wow.
So it was,
because it was the whole multiplayer aspect of it.
Exactly.
I remember that, like, the entire struggle of it.
This was before wireless local multiplayer existed.
Like that, yeah.
So this is what you had to do.
Oh my gosh, that brings me back to a time, like, the same people, like, who, like, I got all that Wii, like, free Wii game stuff and everything.
Yeah.
So we all had DSs as well. I think that was when I still had the original DS and not the 3DS, because I later got that before it broke.
Yeah, gotcha.
I got Plants vs. Zombies on the DS.
That's awesome. I've only ever played the mobile version of that game, so.
Yeah, it was really cool because, like, you could play, like, a bunch of different mini games, and my favorite thing, and I haven't seen it since, if you had two people who had Plants vs. Zombies, you could LAN connect, and one person play as the plants and one person play as the zombies.
So it's almost like chess at that point.
Well, yeah, because
you
like,
have one
the
person...
zombies get brains like sunlight. Yeah. And so, like, you have to be strategic about which ones you decide to send out.
Cool. I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, I remember playing like that for hours. Yeah, so that's like my most memorable thing, and like how I still love Plants vs. Zombies. Like, I got Garden Warfare 1 and 2. Those are still amazing games. I wish they would bring those back and not end up going down like what Battle for Neighborville was.
Yeah. What was I talking about? That just reminded me of, did you ever play Bloons Tower Defense?
Yes, I played 1, 2, 3, like all, like whenever they were like on like Cool Math and stuff like that, like way back when.
So that was,
and I still play the sixth game.
That's awesome.
I still play it.
So that was back with like Cool Math games and everything. That was way before I knew that thing existed, because at the time my best friend got me into playing Tower Defense 4 on mobile. And then I remember okay, that's good to know that there is a little bit of a chat delay.
Yeah,
thank you.
I know for a fact we have like a 30-second delay.
Okay.
Just for Twitch stuff.
Awesome.
But,
so if we do reply late, we apologize. We unfortunately can't control that.
Yeah, or we just don't see it right away. So
that's also another thing. So we well, we're trying to keep on top of it. Honestly, this is really, really good practice for that. So thank you for typing in chat. Honestly.
Yeah. So you want to know a very nostalgic game that I have not played. Actually, there's two that comes to mind. but the one that I'm thinking is remember of a game called Pop Tropica.
Oh my gosh! So, my sister was a lot more into that than I was because, as far as like computer games went, like Flash games and stuff like that, because I know what Pop Tropica is. I'm just saying like this is my experience with it. I've only maybe played like clocked in 10 minutes on Pop Tropica.
Oh, that's sad.
Yeah, I never got into it because I didn't know it existed when I would have really loved it.
Yeah.
But my whole thing was, I still remember this. When we went to the library, I played Club Penguin.
Yes, that's the other game that I was going to tell you about. I've spent countless hours in that game.
That's amazing. Yeah, so we only went to the library like maybe once every like 2 or 3 weeks. And that was how I got into Pokemon. That's how I got into various different things. That's how I originally started reading Maze Runner and like all that stuff. So yeah, honestly, going to the library when I was a little kid, because I don't know if places around the world. I knew you were going to respond that way. I don't know how it all worked, but in the place I grew up in, we had this connecting library across like the main area where we were at, and it's still here to this day. But you could they released like compilations of episodes of Pokemon in these cases that had like different themes on them. Like you had episodes from the Sinnoh series and Diamond and Pearl, the Indigo League. You had all those under a different process, or you had just a compilation of episodes. Because you remember back when DVDs used to have episodes of like the original Mario Brothers Super Show, Super Mario World, Sonic Adventures, all that stuff.
I remember when like DVDs had freaking special features, and there was built-in games in the movies.
Oh my gosh, I remember that.
Like I specifically remember, I think even back when VHS was still a thing, the Lady and the Tramp VHS and later DVD had a special features thing that had a board game built into the thing.
I remember exactly what you're talking about. Not necessarily with like the Lady and the Tramp stuff, but I know there was a game that me and my sister had on there that we could play. It was like a board game like thing. That was when it like media was so awesome, because you didn't just get the movie, you got so much more with it.
Yeah.
And some games, some movies took it so far with just because they had like built-in story with a lot of those as well. And it was like, oh man,
oh my gosh,
dude, that's a whole nother like subgenre of games that I completely forgot about.
Yeah. Animal Jam was another game that I played religiously.
So I have no experience with Animal Jam, funnily enough. I've never played the game a single day in my entire life.
I actually remember spending like the money on the actual like pro membership thing. Mm-hmm. I had like a frozen castle because I was my character, like, mm-hmm. because you can choose a bunch of different animals to play as.
Yeah.
Mine was a penguin. And then I later got a secondary as a wolf, but I remember constantly doing stuff as like penguins and my gosh, there was so much that I did with that game.
That's amazing. So the funny thing is, not only did the Shrek 3 game, the whole reason I'm talking about Shrek is because, again, comment on message on Twitch, but
weren't we just talking about Shrek game earlier too?
We were talking about Shrek because our friend found his original copy of
it was
Shrek,
the Shrek Final Chapter game.
Final Chapter game, exactly.
And then I was saying how I originally had an Xbox, like a original Xbox, uh-huh. and I had the original Shrek game on there.
So I didn't have that one. I didn't. So once again, repeating, I had no experience with like Xbox, PlayStation, PC, like at all growing up. It was mainly just Nintendo, and the only other games that I had experience with was whatever I could find on YouTube or on and I could experience through other people playing the game, or playing Call of Duty Advanced Warfare with my best friend.
Oh, yes, don't get me started on Call of Duty.
That's another thing for another time.
But yeah, I remember there was a game for the Xbox that I played more than like any other game at the time,
Yeah.
and it was called Star Wars Pod Racers.
Oh my gosh! So there was I think it was Star Wars Resistance that we had. It was a game that came out on the GameCube, and my sister remembers this a lot more than I do, because the only games I remember playing on the GameCube were Luigi's Mansion, because it was a launch title.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Sonic Mega Collection that came out on, I think it was the Xbox first, but that got ported over to the GameCube, and it had like the first three Sonic games. You could unlock the fourth Sonic game with Sonic and Knuckles, and you could also it also came with Sonic 3D Blast, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, and a couple of other games on there as well that I never unlocked. And that all was, so it was a mega collection of that. Sonic Spinball was another one. Which, if you never played that game, you have no idea how frustrating Sonic Spinball actually was. But
yeah, I think the only thing that I ever did with a GameCube, because I never owned one,
Mm-hmm.
it was like when I was super young, playing on my uncle's GameCube, and funnily enough was, I believe, Twilight Princess.
Awesome. Okay, so it was my bad. It was Rogue Leader that was the GameCube game. That was a Star Wars game, not Star Wars Resistance. But I do think that is a game that I played at one point. If that
Yeah.
is a game, I don't know. I'm like I wasn't super into Star Wars when I was growing up, so unfortunately, my knowledge of that is very, very lost. I'm a lot more into Star Wars
Yeah,
now.
I like when I was little, I didn't really care much for like game franchises. It was like, ooh, a game, I'm gonna play that.
Fair enough. Going back to Shrek though, I shouldn't say I had, but my sister had Shrek the Third for the Wii. So I played that game a lot, and I remember specifically that it had a mini game in it that was almost like a parkour, like mini game where you either played as Puss, as Donkey, as Arthur, or as Shrek, and you were trying to like jump over bridges and collect like coins and stuff like that as you were going. It was like a glorified 3D Mario platformer, but it was Shrek.
That sounds very interesting.
And that was just a mini game. The main game was still fun, but I honestly kind of preferred the mini game over the actual game.
Yeah.
And then the other one that the other off franchise game that I played that was based off of movies was Spider-Man 3. I also played that one for the Wii, and that was my only experience with a Spider-Man game to date, and I still loved that game.
Yeah, I unfortunately have never played any Spider-Man games. Like, I had a PS3, but I've since then switched to Xbox, and so I've been an Xbox gamer ever since. I would eventually like to get like a PS5 because I want to play like God of War.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm a huge Little Big Planet person.
Nice.
That was like one of the first games I got when I got a PS3. I loved it, played it all. When the second installment came out, I bought that, played it. The third game that came out, bought it, played it. I even Sackboy's Adventures just came out. I bought it. I played a little bit of it. Yeah, that's like one of my favorite games.
That's amazing.
I also remember like staying up like overnights, like with my dad playing like Gran Turismo.
Sorry,
I remember playing games like Sonic Racing.
Oh my gosh, dude. So I I never played like Sonic R or any of like the original Sonic Racing games. The one Sonic game that I do remember vividly though, because I had it for the Wii, was Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing.
Yeah, it was All Stars Racing, and then I remember playing at a cousin's place, Transformed. Like All Stars like Racing Transformed.
Yeah. I never played the I guess the the better version of that game, because I played the Transformed on the 3DS. So I just played the really, really crappy version of that game. It was still fun, don't get me wrong, but it was it was nothing compared to what some of the bigger companies did. Also, I do want to say this right now. I don't care what your opinion is. The new Sonic racing game that came out recently, I think it's Sonic Team Racing or whatever it is. That game is stupid. Don't waste your money on it.
Yes, you showed me that game. I could not figure that out.
It was so stupid, and I still, oh my gosh, I still hate that to this day. But
Sonic and the Black Knight was also a really good game.
So
too.
that's another thing I want to get into was the storybook games, but I want to finish my rant here real quick. Because I bought Sonic Mania for the Switch, but it came in a combo with that game because nobody was buying Team Racing by itself.
Oh my gosh.
So I just have, because I don't remember when this started, but the Switch, when it started doing like bundle games where you would plug in a game card and it would give you 2 games. It did this with Subnautica, and the only other game that it came with that I remember it doing it with was Sonic Mania and Sonic Team Stars Racing. Also, Sonic Mania, fantastic game.
Didn't Sonic Forces do that as well?
Maybe, I don't remember because I just got the game by itself. But Sonic Forces was okay. I only played a little bit of it. But going back to the, oh man, Sonic and the Black Knight is a lot of people are gonna hate me for this. It's still one of my favorite games to this day, specifically because of the soundtrack. The soundtrack to that game is so incredible.
Yeah.
And Crush 40 is one of the best video game bands out there.
I didn't really get much into Sonic like you did. Like the only game that I had for the Wii for Sonic was Sonic and the Secret of the Rings.
So, okay, I had that one too, and I could not tell you how many hours I clocked in to the party mode of that game.
That is like my one regret. I wish I still kept on to that game.
Same. I'm so sad I sold that one because the actual game for it, a lot of people hated the motion controls. And honestly, I get where you're coming from because it was a 3D side scroller that had a really crappy way of backtracking with it, but the story made up for it in a lot of aspects because I loved a lot of the story that came with that game, and it came with a lot of really good boss fights, and it came with one of my personal favorite forms of Sonic, Dark Spine Sonic, at the end of the game when you get all the world rings. Same with Excalibur Sonic. Honestly, the storybook games are great in their own right, and I understand why a lot of people don't like them, but my personal opinion is I grew up with them. They're very nostalgic games to me. And just recently, within the past 2 years, I was playing Sonic and the Black Knight again because I was I remember finding a nunchuck, and I remember taking you to college one day, and before we did that, we were playing Sonic and the Black Knight.
That's right.
In my old apartment, and the whole reason I remember this vividly was because as soon as you left for the day, I clocked in and beat Sonic and the Black Knight over again. I beat the entire game after you left because I remember how much I loved that game. And the boss fights are my personal favorite part of that game. And the first fight you do that isn't King Arthur is against Shadow. He plays Lancelot in that game. But the cool part about that is as soon as you beat the game, you get an extra mission that is defeat the boss, Lancelot Returns, and he comes back just super crazy powerful. And I remember clocking in probably a good 6 hours nonstop of retrying and beating this boss to get it a 5-star rank on it, because I wanted to beat the game starting out with getting all 5-star ranks on all of the boss fights. Yes. You can even ask my sister, dude. My eyes were bloodshot after I beat it because of how hard I was focusing on that thing. And this was just a recent thing too. Like I said, it was about the last 2 years, like sometime in the last 2 years. But oh my gosh. Yeah, don't get me started on Sonic because I will talk about that for hours.
Yeah, and like besides Secret of the Rings, the newest game that I have of Sonic is Frontiers.
Yeah, oh man, I hate myself for doing this too because I've only clocked in about 90 minutes into Frontiers. And I know you've played a lot more of it than I have, but I will say the soundtrack is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm definitely planning on like replaying the game because I only got like halfway through the story.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely, like, that's one of the games that I would like to get back into.
It's a great game from what I've played so far, and it's I honestly really love the direction Sega is taking with Sonic, especially with the new voice actor and everything. Yeah, I was very skeptical about it at first, but I really love to see how it's changed.
Yeah. Another game that I grew up with and spent countless hours in. Unfortunately, I never ended up getting to beat it whenever I first played it. And I'm planning on actually playing it again because the remastered version just came out. Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch.
So, I've only played a little bit of the original version of that game.
It was so fun, and there's so like many like hours worth of gameplay to just do whatever. And yeah, it's just like a staple part of my childhood, and I want to get back into it.
That's awesome. I love that. That's really, really, really cool. Because Ni no Kuni is one of the franchises I've wanted to get into. However, one of the lesser known franchises for Nintendo, it doesn't have anything to do with Ni no Kuni, but it just reminded me of a lesser known franchise that a lot of people didn't know that that originally started on the Wii, and that was Xenoblade Chronicles. Xenoblade is an incredible series for a lot of, and all of the games have been released on Switch now, because you can play the original one as the definitive edition on the Switch, and you can play 2 and 3. I'm currently working my way through Xenoblade 3 right now, clocking about 80 hours in that game.
It's all you've ever been playing for the last how long now?
Oh man, I started playing this game probably about a month after it released, and I clocked in about 60 hours, and then I had to take a break. And I didn't play it for about a year, and I just recently got back into playing it. But, oh man, that's a different breed of story. The way I like to introduce Xenoblade to a lot of people is by saying it's Nintendo's answer to Final Fantasy. And honestly, it's very, very, very true in that aspect, because it's a lot more of an anime enhanced game, and they have a lot more... it's not really turn-based combat, but the combat system is very similar to how Final Fantasy works, especially the newer releases with like
Well, I never really got into Final Fantasy.
Gotcha.
I think I only played like 15.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the only game that I played of the Final Fantasy franchise.
So I only played a little bit of 3, but it wasn't the original Final Fantasy 3. It was the port that the Nintendo Virtual Console has for its online members for the SNES.
Yeah, I the only reason why I played 15 is because it's like I can get it for free on Game Pass for Xbox. So that's the only reason why I played. And I was like, hey, I want to try Final Fantasy out.
I will say though that that I have a lot more knowledge of Final Fantasy VII. I've only ever played the game for about an hour, but and I'm talking about the remastered version that came out. I think it was PS4, not the original Final Fantasy VII, which came out well before that.
So the Final Fantasy game for like Disney, that one's probably I think I know what that one is. I think it's Epic Mickey.
It is. So
I never really got into that game though.
So oh man, okay. So Epic Mickey, dude, I feel like that game is a fever dream with how little I remember specific portions of it. But because we bought the game that came with the bundle with the paintbrush nunchuck.
Oh my God.
And that game was a lot of fun. Yeah. I had a lot of fun with that game, and it was really, really cool. And honestly, I would love to go back and play it again because I remember having such a great experience with that game. But I was very, very young when it came out for the Wii, and I don't remember a whole lot about it.
Yeah, another game that I never really got into, or I haven't even touched any of these games, and I might, in fact, get some criticism from this, but I've never played a Kingdom Hearts game.
So you're not alone in that battle. I've also never played a Kingdom Hearts game, but I've watched a lot of videos on it, and it is something that I really would love to get into, because the coolest part about Kingdom Hearts is there's a tie between that and Final Fantasy. A lot of characters from Final Fantasy get intermingled because of the story in Kingdom Hearts. And so, like, it even goes as far as I know that there's a way that you can challenge Sephiroth in uh, in Greece's Colosseum in the Hercules world.
Wow.
I believe he comes up because you challenge a lot of like the Titans and everything in there. If I'm wrong about that, I apologize. I only saw a little clip of it. But yeah, that's a whole thing that is built into I think it's the first or maybe it's the third Kingdom Hearts game. But yeah, you literally can challenge Sephiroth in uh, in the Greece Colosseum from the Hercules game,
Yeah,
movie,
that's really interesting.
exactly, and a lot of the story for Kingdom Hearts intermixes with Final Fantasy as well. So if you ever do want to get into Final Fantasy, but you also want to get into Kingdom Hearts, get into Kingdom Hearts first because we'll give you a little spoonful of Final Fantasy.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm gonna kind of like, turn the topic a little bit.
It's fine.
Getting more into like more so what we're planning on doing in the future, like what kind of games we're gonna be wanting to delve into and play.
Yes. As far as nostalgia is concerned, honestly, if we wanted to reminisce about games that from our childhood and games we're playing right now, that's a whole different thing, and we would be happy to talk about a full hour of that. We would dedicate a whole episode to that if you guys.
Well,
are
I mean,
enjoying
we've
this
kind of
podcast.
already have.
I was just giving them the funny thing too is like same with our previous episode of this podcast was us reminiscing in a lot about high school and things like that too. Those are just little tidbits of stories that we can impact on a way bigger scale. So if you guys do want to talk about that, we will gladly listen to your feedback. But going into what Gygas is talking about with with our direction of the channel, as I said, I grew up with a lot more Nintendo games than a lot of people. So when I get my own setup, because we are recording on Gygas' equipment and everything like that, when I get my own setup, I'm going to be focusing a lot more on the Nintendo side of things. And I honestly think my first Let's Play is probably going to be Mario 64. Mario 64 is my favorite game of all time, and it only makes sense that I would start with that.
Well, even so, like we've been talking back and forth about doing verses and
Yes.
like doing like a bunch of like head-to-head kind of games, like with old
Yeah.
Mario 64,
Like old Nintendo games, in some newer Nintendo games, like Luigi's Mansion is a good way to do. Would be a great game to play because we're about to get or Nintendo's about to re-release Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon on the
yeah,
Switch.
and we both played that for the 3DS. I
Exactly.
actually had it, like when the 3DS actually came as a bundle for Dark Moon.
So I didn't have that, but I did buy in second grade one of my presents that I got was Dark Moon, and I still have my copy of that game for the 3DS. Whenever that releases, I would absolutely love to do a versus of that because that game was a lot of fun, and I honestly think it would work very, very well for a versus. But I would love to replay the original Luigi's Mansion as well, just because I recently replayed that when I was living in my old apartment, and it was a lot of fun there as well.
Yeah, I haven't played the original Luigi's Mansion.
You're missing out, man. That is
I'm
such a great game.
I'm kind of hoping, like, if Switch ever like does a port from GameCube, that we get Luigi's Mansion, because I would play that.
If they continue the area where they're going, that's what would be next, is a remastered version of all of the GameCube games, which would be
that would be
so
a lot of fun.
cool. If we're talking about speculations, though, I'm just gonna say this right now. All I'm really hoping for remasters for games now is a remaster of Twilight Princess and a remaster of Wind Waker.
I highly agree with that. Those are like the two games that I've been wanting as well.
So Twilight Princess is my second favorite game of all time, specifically the Wii version because that's the one I played the most. But I did play a little bit of Twilight Princess HD and a little bit on the GameCube as well. But that game, it's my second favorite game of all time. The only reason Mario 64 beats it is because Mario 64 is a very, very near and dear game to my heart. I could play that game for hours over and over and over again and never get bored of it. Honestly, if you locked me in a prison cell with Mario 64, I would be happy. But yeah, so that's Twilight Princess would be a great game to verse as well, just because I know you've been wanting to replay that, and that would be a good way to revisit that. Another game that we kind of already started doing experimenting with versus was Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild, we are going to be doing a version of that eventually. This is far in the future when when I have my own setup and we have capture cards and everything. Hopefully in the next 2-3 years, fingers crossed, we can start doing these kinds of things. But going back to it, we had like figure sense and checkpoints that we had to complete in Breath of the Wild before we could do next ones, and we were just trying to complete those in various retrospects of that. I remember the first rule that we made, which honestly was kudos to me on my part, because I did the math in figuring out how many shrines you had to visit to get all 13 hearts to get the Master Sword. Our first checkpoint was getting those 40 those 40 shrines done, and then getting the Master Sword, and you weren't allowed to challenge any of the Divine Beasts until you got the Master Sword, while also trying to get all 13 memories before you started taking those on. And as soon as you did that, you could storm the castle.
Yeah, and I remember we did like several all-nighters on this.
We did.
And I think I'm still ahead of you in that point because of the memories. Not the memories. The house. We made that one of the requirements. We have to
max out the house.
We have to max out the house, and I ended up getting ahead of you on that.
You are ahead of me on that. However, I'm ahead of you in Divine Beasts. We did figure that out because I remember you spent a lot more time focusing on the house while I was challenging some of the Divine Beasts. So I think I'm one Divine Beast ahead of you, but you have, I think, 2 upgrades on the house more than me. You have it done already. Yeah. So that's the tie between with that. So, and honestly, if we do eventually, which as far as I know, we are still planning on doing a version of that, hopefully live, we will have all of those checkpoints mustered up, and we'll hopefully have a map and a progress bar dedicated to those checkpoints whenever we do something like that. So This will be a very, very big event whenever we do start this.
And then another thing that we were wanting to do is also a split controller playthrough
of Breath of the Wild. And essentially this is, we experimented with this. It's a very interesting way to play Breath of the Wild, but it is possible. And it's exactly what it sounds like. You split the Joy-Con controller setup or the Pro controller setup in half, and you give one person the right hand of the Joy-Con while the other person has the left. So one person controls movement while the other person controls the camera and actions. It's a very chaotic version of playing Breath of the Wild, but it is a lot of fun, and it takes a lot of cooperation and communication. So eventually we would love to be able to do something like that as well.
Yeah, and so for me, what I intend on doing in the future, and this is kind of probably where we'll start ending out the podcast, as we do have some real life stuff to get to.
Let's be honest, I unfortunately am out of time constraint because of work again. This is going to be a constant thing with me.
Yeah, so I mean, me personally, like, I've kind of taken like the head of like video production. Like, I've been doing solo streams on my own and stuff like that, and editing and
my boy's been knocking out of the park with a lot of the behind the scenes aspect of Embers Corner.
Yeah.
And eventually we are splitting up. We're trying to split up all of the extra work, but right now, because he has the main setup, there's only so much I can do. So a lot of my behind the scenes work right now is reviewing video production and uploading, make sure everything is going with that, and make sure all the production is going well with everything as well, and then popping on over here and doing combo streams with Gaigas.
Yeah, so
eventually that will get better, and we will have a lot more content to feed into the algorithm.
Yeah, so future-wise gameplay, I'm planning on kind of doing a little bit of everything. There is a time whenever we get some more people with their own setups. I would like to start a modded Minecraft, like maybe Vanilla Plus server. I think that would be a really fun thing to stream and kind of just progress. I don't know if it'll be like an SMP, but I think it would definitely be a really fun thing to do, like a Vanilla Plus server.
Absolutely. And
Monday, we're actually planning on streaming again tomorrow if possible.
yes, because of the time constraint we're on with this specific Sunday, we are going to be doing a makeup stream so that way we can get some more Wildermyth action and another game that we've been experimenting with a little bit. So we're going to be doing a couple of different streams tomorrow, hopefully around the same time. If not, it'll be a little bit later.
Yeah, so I think 3 o'clock is when we're gonna plan to.
That's the goal. There's a good chance it's going to be closer to 3:30 though.
Yeah. So those are games that we're planning on doing. Friday, I potentially might do a solo stream. I have been trying to work on getting Twitch working on the Xbox, so that a way I can stream a game called Liza P. I've been told rather, it looks like a very fun game. I've been told it's very popular, and I've been wanting to try to my hand at it. So that's a solo stream game that I want to work on. As for the month of October, that's a different story. We plan on kind of doing like a whole month of Spooktober. I'm going to be playing pretty much like horror games, which that's going to be fun because I don't like horror games.
My boy's a little bit of a scaredy cat.
I don't do much horror. So Phasmophobia is one of those games that we're going to be playing.
We're going to be playing a little bit of Amnesia.
Yeah, I'm going to try playing through the Amnesia series. I've also been wanting to try and play 7 Days to Die. That's one of my favorite games to play, and I feel like it's kind of a well fit into this this whole month.
Yep, and to feed into the algorithm, there may even be a certain game that is getting a movie release later in the month of October that we might stream as well. So, but we'll let you wonder about what exactly that game is. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for just listening overall. We're gonna try and close out here a little bit just because there's some stuff I do need to talk with you guys about behind the scenes. But again, I just want to say thank you for joining us, and we hope that you enjoyed this podcast. Again, if you have any other topics you want us to discuss, please do not hesitate to drop those in the chat, or drop those in the comments on YouTube, or over on our Discord as well, which all of those social links you can find on our page, and we have them interlinked so that way you can find all of the links on every platform that we currently have. And we will have links on our social media pages eventually whenever I get that ball rolling. And I do apologize. I have been very busy, but I will get those up and running as soon as I can. But yeah, that's really it for this session. Do you have anything to add?
I don't. Yeah, so I will try to come up with a schedule on Twitch just to kind of like a rough estimate of when we're going to be streaming throughout the week, maybe the next 2 weeks, so that a way like you guys can kind of look to see like, oh, we're going to be streaming this day. But other than that, like, that's pretty much it for me.
Fantastic. Alrighty, well, I think we're going to go ahead and close out for this week's episode of Campfire Embers, and we will see you guys in the next one. Alrighty, have a good night.
See you guys.